The hum of morning traffic seeped through my cracked bedroom window as I fumbled for the alarm. The faint creak of old floorboards underfoot carrying through the quiet apartment. Sunlight filtered through thin curtains, casting long shadows across the cluttered desk where my laptop sat half buried under sketches and empty coffee mugs from last night's grind. I shuffled into the kitchen, the atmosphere heavy with the damp odor wafting from the cellar beneath, and started the coffee maker, its gurgle a familiar rhythm against the sound of distant traffic outside. Peyton was already there, stirring her brew with a smirk, her barista apron slung over a chair as she quipped about the latest cafe nightmare, spilled lattes, and impossible demands. Mike wandered in moments later, fiddling with a beeping gadget, his IT woes spilling out in half-jokes about buggy code and endless reboots. The three of us trading easy banter that made the cramped space feel almost homey, despite the flickering hallway light and walls that absorbed every sound. Days blurred like that. Remote work at my bedroom setup, pixels and deadlines pulling me through the hours, broken by takeout runs and evenings slumped on the warm couch with games or shows, the screen's glow chasing away the quiet isolation that crept in when I was alone, staring at the ceiling and wondering if I'd misplaced more than just my keys. Mike would tease about the building's weird vibes, old tales from previous tenants that we'd laugh off over beers. But in those still moments, a subtle unease stirred like a forgotten thought, hovering just out of reach, making the familiar creaks and shadows feel less benign. That night, after the usual routine of takeout and half-hearted laughs over a mindless show, I collapsed into bed with a nagging headache, the kind that felt like fingers pressing against my skull from inside. Sleep came fitfully, dragging me into a dream that started innocently. I wandered through the eerily empty apartment, the rooms stretching out as if holding their breath. I called out for Peyton and Mike, my voice bouncing back distorted, like it belonged to someone else. Shadows flitted at the edges of my vision, figures dissolving into mist just as I reached for them. I'd wake sweating, heart pounding, telling myself it was just stress from work deadlines. But then it started bleeding into the day. The next morning, I shuffled into the kitchen to find my coffee mug not on the counter where I'd left it, but tucked away in a cabinet I never used. Odd, but I shrugged it off. Maybe Peyton had tidied up. By evening, though, it was more than that. My laptop charger was coiled neatly on the living room table instead of tangled by my desk, and a stack of sketches I'd scattered on the floor was piled alphabetically on the shelf. No one else was home. I'd heard them leave for their shifts. I stared at the changes, a chill prickling my skin, wondering if I was losing it or if the apartment was playing tricks on me. The dreams persisted, night after night, each more vivid than the last. I roamed the vacant corridors, shouting for Peyton and Mike, but my cries dissolved into a stifling quiet that hung heavy in the air. One morning, I checked my phone for the time and froze, scrolling through photos from last week's hangout, a blurry shot of us at the bar. My face was smudged out, as if someone had run a finger through wet paint. I flipped to older ones, family pics from years back, vacations, even selfies. In half of them, I was a ghost, my features erased or blurred into nothingness. Panic clawed at me. I tried editing one, but it wouldn't fix. Had my phone glitched? I showed it to Mike when he got home, but he just laughed it off. Dude, you need to update your software. Looks like a filter gone wrong. Peyton was different, too. We'd always shared inside jokes from our early days, like quoting lines from that awful horror flick we binged on moving day. But when I referenced the killer vacuum bit over breakfast, she blinked blankly. What are you talking about, Benjamin? We never watched that. Her smile failed to light up her eyes, and she quickly shifted to tales of office intrigue. It struck me hard. She wasn't losing memories. She was altering them. Mike was even more evasive. He'd muttered about his recent forgetfulness every time I broached the subject, dodging my eyes, his fingers fidgeting nervously over his phone as though concealing a secret. Paranoia crept in, slow and insidious. Were they in on it? Or was I the one slipping? I couldn't shake it. That afternoon, alone in the apartment, I delved into the building's history online. It was an old relic from the early 1900s, originally a boarding house during the forgotten epidemic. Forum threads appeared on obscure sites, buried in search results. Posts from years ago described residents who just vanished, leaving no records or traces. One anonymous user claimed their roommate faded away, literally. First from photos, then from memory. It's like the building eats them, the post read. Tied to the isolation back then, people going mad in quarantine, forgetting who they were. The epidemic had confined folks, driving some to delirium and hushed-up suicides. Was that it? Some malevolent echo lingering in the walls? I dug deeper, heart racing. Grainy scans of old newspapers mentioned the Forgotten House, where boarders screamed about shadows stealing their faces. No solid proof, just rumors and deleted accounts. But it fit. The air thick with the musty scent lingering from the basement below, accompanied by creaking floors that sounded like distant cries. I bookmarked everything. But when I refreshed, half the threads were gone, as if they'd never existed. For a while, things normalized. That weekend, we went out as a group to the local pub. Beers, darts, the usual. Peyton cracked jokes about her boss. Mike ranted about a coding nightmare, and I felt the tension ease. Laughter filled the space as the bar's warmth chased away the chill. Everything seemed fine, as if the apartment's weirdness was just my overactive imagination. We stumbled home late, buzzed and carefree, and I crashed without a dream. But when I woke, the illusion shattered. I headed to my bedroom, only to find the door locked from the inside. I jiggled the handle, pounded on the wood, and yelled for whoever was there. Silence. Mike and Peyton were still out. I was alone. Panic surged as I forced the door open with a shoulder shove, the frame splintering slightly. The room was empty, but my bed was pristine, sheets tucked military style, not the mess I'd left. And on the nightstand, a photo of us three suffered the same eerie distortion. From there, the apartment warped. Mirrors became enemies. I'd glance in the bathroom one and see my reflection twisted, Rooms elongated like funhouse horrors, furniture misplaced. Shadows clung to corners, defying the light, stretching beyond physics' limits. One evening, I swore I saw a faceless figure in the hallway mirror, mimicking my movements, but lagging like a delayed echo. I smashed the glass in a fit, shards scattering, but the shadows grew bolder, pooling under doors like spilled liquid. Desperation built until I couldn't take it anymore. That night, I decided to force the issue, staying up in the living room with lights on and coffee brewing, waiting for whatever haunted this place. The clock ticked toward midnight, the air thick with the musty scent lingering from the basement below. The apartment enveloped in an intensifying fog of damp decay. I paced, nerves frayed, whispering challenges to the empty air. "Show yourself. What do you want?" As the clock struck 12, it hit. The walls groaned, hallways stretching like taffy, the kitchen merging into the living room in a dizzying blur, furniture shifted, doorways twisting. I stumbled as the floor tilted, and then nothing. A plunge into the void, weightless and endless. Darkness swallowed me, but it wasn't empty. Fragmented memories swirled like debris in a storm. Faces from my past flickered, old friends, forgotten moments. And there, at the center, was the truth I'd buried. The ghostly presence wasn't some external specter. It was me, or what was left of me, fading from existence. The building's anomaly, a cyclical curse from the epidemic days, latched onto occupants, erasing them from memory and reality. But it was tied to me specifically, fueled by my subconscious guilt. A heavy silence filled the void, broken by muffled cries, distant and pleading, like voices trapped in walls. The air grew thick and cold, clinging to my skin like wet cloth, as visions assaulted me. Threads of my life unraveling, pulling apart at the seams. There it was, the suppressed truth, an accident from years back. My friend Tyler, isolated after our fallout. I'd ghosted him during his rough patch, too wrapped up in my own issues, and he'd spiraled alone in his apartment until he was gone. They called it an overdose, but I knew my abandonment had pushed him there. The guilt had festered, and now, in this building with its history of madness and forgetting, it manifested as a curse. I was erasing myself, piece by piece, the anomaly amplifying my self-loathing into something tangible. In the void, I confronted the dilemma. Reject the truth, hold on to the deception that everything was imposed from outside, and hasten my erasure, allowing the building to devour me whole. Or accept my complicity, own up to my part in Tyler's seclusion, and court utter disintegration, my essence fracturing like brittle shards. Chaos escalated. From the churning shadows, icy claws seized my limbs, dragging me downward. Fragments of my essence dissolved, beginning with a tingling void in my digits. Then recollections dimming, identities and visages fading into oblivion. The cries grew louder, my own voice joining them, bouncing back distorted as the void tightened its grip. I thrashed against the pool, cold seeping into my bones, visions of Tyler's face blurring with my own in the unraveling threads. The apartment's distorted layout pressed in, walls closing like jaws, shadows coiling around my legs. Faced with the choice, denied all, clinging to the lie of external forces, blaming the building and epidemic ghosts, which would accelerate my fade, letting spectral hands dig deeper with icy nails, dragging me toward oblivion. Or embrace the truth, admit my role in Tyler's isolation, confront the accident by reliving that ignored final call and unread messages as he faded alone, risking total dissolution. My identity shattering like glass. The air thickened, suffocating me as muffled cries morphed into judging murmurs. You left me. Now you're leaving yourself. My heart hammered as more fragments dissolved. Childhood memories evaporating, the taste of my favorite coffee gone. Peyton and Mike's faces blurring in my mind. Physical manifestations intensified. Hands emerged from the swirling darkness. Cold fingers grasping my arms, pulling me under. They multiplied, their iron grips now tearing at my clothes and skin from every shadow. Parts of me vanished. First numbness in my fingertips, then memories flickering out. Names and faces slipping away. I felt my reflection in that void mirror shatter, pieces of my identity scattering like dust. The revelation burned. This wasn't just horror. It was justice. My guilt given form. The building a mirror to my fractured soul. In the swirling heart of that void, where the apartment's twisted corridors folded into themselves like a Mobius strip of regret, the shadows finally coalesced into form. It was me, or what I might have become if I'd let the guilt rot unchecked. A shadowy doppelganger, its features a warped mirror of my own. Eyes like voids that swallowed light, mouth curling in a smile that recalled Tyler's last unanswered plea. It stepped forward, not with hatred, but with the cold certainty of inevitability, its voice a rasping murmur that slithered through the chaos like smoke. You cling to illusions, Benjamin, it intoned, circling me as the grasping hands retreated just enough to let its words sink in. Human connections, mere flickers against the tide of time. We build them like sandcastles, pretending they'll withstand the waves. But permanence is a lie we tell ourselves to sleep at night. Everyone fades, forgotten in the clutter of daily life, erased by indifference. And the darkness, it doesn't lurk in haunted houses or cursed basements. It resides in the forgotten corners of your own mind, blooming from seeds planted with every overlooked call, every bridge you let burn. Free will, a cruel myth. We all carry the blueprints of our own erasure. Neglect begets isolation. Isolation begets oblivion. You didn't choose this. It chose you. The moment you turned away from him. We're all just remnants, waiting to dissolve. Peyton and Mike arrived home that morning, their voices a distant hum, barely registering my presence. Peyton served coffee to Mike, overlooking me entirely. When I mentioned last night, they hesitated, trading baffled stares. "What was that?" Mike murmured, brushing it off like an errant thought. Peyton laughed it off, but her voice faltered, like she'd forgotten the punchline to an inside joke. I was fading from them, the anomaly passing subtly onward, perhaps to Mike next, with his twitching fingers and averted gazes, or Peyton, whose scripted smiles cracked at the edges. Panic surged. I grabbed a notepad and scribbled frantically. "Don't forget me. The building erases us. Fight it. Remember Tyler. Remember." But the marks blurred as I wrote, letters dissolving into the page like mist, evaporating before my eyes. I stared at the blank sheet, a chill suggesting that this wasn't just my horror anymore. What if it's yours? Those overlooked moments in your day, the friend you meant to call, the face in the crowd you swear you've seen before but can't place. The cycle spins on, seeping through the cracks of reality, waiting for you to notice how easily you, too, could fade into the shadows. And as the last trace of your name fades into the indifferent hum of the world, remember, oblivion doesn't knock. It simply waits for you to stop answering. Join us inside the void, listener. Tell us of your grave misfortunes on r/ancientmalicious. Give us your gold, your treasures, your time. Join the subscription cult. Become like us. Become one with us.